Hello YouTube, this is Sam Gerrans from Qur'anite.com. Today is Friday the 25th of October 2019, and I'm just going to kind of riff on a couple of things that are in my mind. Firstly, I've been doing this work now for about 6 years, I think, since we first started the work which became the Qur'an, a complete revelation, and I think the YouTube channel has been going for 3 or 4 years. I'm not exactly sure how long. But I get the same sort of questions kind of over and over again, and one of the sort of abiding motifs is, basically, well, one is, how do I pray? How do I do this stuff? How is it that I can believe in the Quran alone, but carry on serving brand Islam? That seems to be the question. They want it to be the same but different but the same, something like that. So I'm going to try and get into some of that a little bit. And the second is sort of, and I think anybody who works in this area gets this, who do you think you are to have an opinion on this? Well, if I address this one first, who do I think I am to have an opinion on this? I personally think that we all have to take responsibility, and that would be the operative word, responsibility, personal responsibility for our, for what we do in this life. And for me, when I first read the Quran, I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but I was very impressed. But I'm not impressed by what Islam has achieved, certainly not in the last 1,000 years. So according to the book, those who follow this book, they're going to be successful. I don't see that. Excuse me. I don't see that in the Islamic world. What I see is retrograde, very backward, very superstitious, unproductive and lazy culture, which blames other people. It's always somebody else's fault. It's the Jews, or it's the West, or it's somebody else. It's never their fault. It's amazing, isn't it? Never their fault. So going back to responsibility again. So I'm being asked by people who themselves outsource their responsibility to outsource my responsibility to people who have themselves outsourced their responsibility and who have got nothing to show for it. That's basically the chain of events. That's what I'm supposed to do, and risk eternal hell as well. You see, so that would be another thing. And the fact that I don't do that is seen as arrogance of some kind. Well, if that's what you want to call it, I would call it personal responsibility. And this site and this channel and my work is really just me going through that process of doing my own due diligence. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is going back to the fact that I'm not able and unwilling and actually not able to present a sort of replacement for religion, for your old religion, is because actually there isn't really much in the way of religion in the Quran. That's really what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying there's no morality. Of course there's morality. There are certain standards. But if you are looking for what do we mean by religion? I suppose what we mean by religion is a set of dogmas that one outsources one's personal responsibility to, and hopes that in the sort of the blind and stupid repetition of unthinking repetition of something, that you're going to get a particular amazing result. Well, where else do we see this in the world? Where else do we see that, by non-personal application, you're going to get something amazing? I don't see it anywhere. What I see is that what as you sow, so should you reap. That it's a cause and effect. Again, it's going back to personal responsibility. This is, I suppose, the key thing. So yes, I do take personal responsibility. And can I be wrong about something? Yeah, sure, I can be wrong about something. But what I'm doing is working out what makes sense to me. Because what makes sense to me is something that I can stand by, on the Day of Judgment, rather than having outsourced it to, Abdul Longbeard with his corrupt government somewhere, saying Inshallah, and some culture that actually nobody wants to live in, including him. So is that arrogance, to say, well, I'm actually going to come to this book and look at it for myself? I don't think so. So what I'm going to do is look at just one part of Surah 6 this is from my own translation, the Qur'an, a complete revelation, which as ever you can download for free from Qur'anite.com. But what I'm trying to drive at here is, if you're looking for a set of rules, the religionist has got all these rules, and I suppose the great thing about the religionist is, in a very short term, is that he does alleviate the need to think at all. And just before I start on this, one of the reasons why I'm doing this is I asked somebody that I'm very close with and that I work with and consider a collaborator in what I'm doing now. He's from a Pakistani background, and I'd had some comments about, basically, hey, white boy, the people you're talking to come from a completely different background. And I thought, actually, that's true. So I asked him to explain to me what it's like growing up in a Pakistani Islamic background. It makes pretty depressing reading, to be perfectly honest. And it was a bit of it was an eye-opener for me. I didn't realise quite how, I suppose, schizophrenic it really is. And I mean, on the one hand, there's this one set of beliefs and one set of things that people want, the women in the cars and the great career and all of this. And on the other hand, this sort of kind of time tax and there's almost like a blood-brain barrier between these two parts of your life. And I suppose the only kind of comparable type of schizophrenia that I can think of is democracy, where you've got, on the one hand, we want everyone to be free and all of this, and sort of integration and tolerance and all the rest of that of the dogma. But on the other hand, if you don't want it, we'll come bomb your country. We'll come bomb your country into third world. So this kind of doublethink, which is really what it is. And I think that that's really the connection between Islam and democracy. They actually are very similar, because they have this, they're capable of maintaining two mutually exclusive sets of postulates in the mind at once without seeing a contradiction. But if you do hold that, you do start to break down, and the West is breaking down. It's turning into this sort of mush of insanity and libtard, insanity, there is no better word than that. And then we've got the Islamic insanity, which is a different kind of insanity, but you can see why they really kind of go together. Anyway, what I want to get to is just to demonstrate from the Qur'an that this religion that everyone, even people who've come out of it, they kind of think, and I realised this about a lot of the people who follow my stuff, is they kind of think, great, we believe in the Qur'an, we want to stay with the Qur'an, but we don't want the mullah's religion, so give us another religion. I say, no, actually, no. What I'm saying is that you don't really find it in the Qur'an. It's true, the traditionalist is correct. The religion isn't in it. What he would then go on to say is that's why you need him. What I'm saying is the religion isn't in it. That's why you need to use your own brain. If you do use your own brain, this schizophrenic thing that a lot of people from cultural Islamic backgrounds are living in can be resolved. You don't have to break yourself into bits to believe in God. What you do is you just do what the Qur'an says, which is consider it with care, use your own mind, actually practice things like gratitude and all of that, instead of thinking that, okay, I can live like the devil, which a lot of these Muslim, especially young men, but women too, are doing, and think that if I pray a couple of zakāt, and that's all forgiven. No, your sins go with you. Get used to that. This kind of trying to sort of trick God and trick everybody into thinking things that are not true. God isn't fooled, not by any of this. You're better off just living living for the devil, if that's what you're going to do. At least you be sincere. But this hypocrisy, it's the worst. Anyway, getting back to some of the verses I was going to look at. So this is So Surah 6 and verse 136 is what I'm going to start with. And they make for God of what he sows of tilth and cattle a portion. So they say, well, a bit of this is for God, but some for him, some for us. And this is what Traditionalist Islam does. It doesn't take a holistic. Well, it's what people who grow up in this culture do. Typically, is that there's they think some's for God and some's for them, but no, God gave you everything. To continue, they say this is for God according to their claim, and this is for our partners. This is what I'm talking about. This is actually the crux of what this my friend sent me in this letter about his background as a Pakistani. I thought this is what's actually going on here. And what is for their partners, it does not reach God. And what is for God, as it were, it reaches their partners. Evil is what they judge. And thus do their partners make fair to many among the idolaters the killing of their children. Now this has been true across the world at many times, and it's certainly true in the West now, where killing of children is on an industrial scale, that they might bring them to ruin and obfuscate their doctrine for them. And had God willed, they would not have done it. So leave thou them and what they fabricate. So now we're going to get back to this kind of religion thing. So and also, if you think back historically, exposure, leaving babies to die on mountaintops and so on. I'm not quite sure what the equivalent is in the Islamic world. I'm sure in various places there'll be ways of killing children. In the West, of course, it's abortions. So 138, and they say these cattle and tilth are taboo, so you can't eat these special ones. None is to eat them, save whom we will, according to their claim, and cattle whose backs are made unlawful, and cattle over which they remember not the name of God as an invention against him. Now this is the key point. These are inventions. This is the archetypal religionist. He's got all of his laws. If you want a religion, this is it, okay? This is a load of made-up nonsense. He will requite them for what they invented. So, people come to me and say, so how should we pray? What, you want me to make something up for you? How should you cut the grass? If you want to pray, pray. If you want to pray in the way the traditionalist Muslim prays, pray in the way the traditionalist Muslim prays, if it is a benefit to you. But asking, how to do these things when God has not himself revealed this, it's a sin. Can't you see that? And the fact that it hasn't been set in stone means that, there's this thing called personal initiative. I know it's an unpopular thing, but this is why you're a human being and, not an ant. It's because you've been given the ability to use your own brain. I know. It says that, God sent down, he offered this Qur'an upon the mountains. It refused. It was only man who accepted. You accepted because you've got a brain. You're meant to apply that, you see. And, if the Islamic world, with their religion, if they could really point to some success somewhere, maybe they'd have a case. But, in your heart of hearts that they're failed, they're absolutely discredited. And importing it into the West and trying to destroy the West with the same nonsense, doesn't make any difference. Oh, there was rubbish, now we're going to make your country rubbish too. No, now's the time to use your brain, you see. That's what the Qur'an is asking us to do. And, if you wait for the traditionalist and the mullah to use theirs, you'll be dead, you see, and going to hell. So it's up to you. If not you, who else is going to do this? You're going to leave it for your children, your grandchildren. Why don't you just kind of, speed up the curve and do it yourself? So 139. And they say, what is in the bellies of such cattle is exclusively for our males and forbidden our wives. And if it be dead, then are they all partners therein. See, another bit of religion for you. What does God say about it? He will requite them for their description. He is wise, knowing. God knows what he put in the Qur'an. God knows what he put in the Qur'an. If he'd wanted to tell you how to pick your nose and all this stuff, it would be in the Qur'an, but it's not. 140, they have lost those who foolishly killed their children without knowledge and made unlawful what God provided them as an invention about God. Again, these are all inventions. They have gone astray and were not rightly guided. I'm going to read the next verse because it bears consideration. 141. And he it is who brings into being gardens, trellised and untrellised, and the date palms, and crops diverse in its food, and the olive and the pomegranate, similar yet different. Eat of the fruit thereof when it bears fruit, and render its due on the day of harvest, and commit not excess. God loves not the committers of excess. Now, why would this be here? Because it goes back to the same religionist type of verse afterwards. This is all about, I find it somewhat triggering, the word, but diversity. Human beings were created diverse. We're created with different skills, different abilities, different aptitudes. You know, we're similar, but we are different. So why would it be that there would be just one way of doing absolutely everything that is correct? This is the Qur'an speak. I didn't make this up. I didn't write this book. I'm just telling you what it says. Okay, so 142. And it goes back to this thing. And of the cattle for burden and for skin, eat of what God has provided you, and follow not the footsteps of the shaitan. He is an open enemy to you. Okay? And then it goes back to this religionist trying to shove his religion down your throat. 8 pairs of sheep 2 and of goats 2. This is, God has sort of has mandated this. And then it cuts off. Say thou. And this is a challenge to the religionist. Has he forbidden the 2 males or the 2 females? If what the wombs of the 2 females contain, inform me with knowledge if you be truthful. So this is what you do when they're coming to you with all this hadith nonsense and religion nonsense. Say, where do you get this from? What exactly are you speaking about? And then they carry on. And of camels 2 and of oxen 2. Again, this is the religion trying to carry on, pushing itself down your throat. Say thou, has he forbidden the 2 males or the 2 females? See, when you start to get specific about this, when you actually look at the details of it, even when you look at the details of the hadith, they contradict each other all over the place. If what the wombs of the 2 females contain, or if you were witness when God enjoined this upon you, were you witness when God enjoined this upon you? No, you weren't. The isnad, the pedigree, supposedly, of all of this stuff bears witness to the fact that no single person ever was witness to this. None of them saw it. This is at best hearsay and at worst invented, concocted nonsense. But that's the foundation of the religion, you see. And this is what the Qur'an is talking about. It's talking about precisely this type of thing. So if you were witnesses, or if you were witnesses when God enjoined this upon you, then who is more unjust than he who invents a lie about God that he might lead people astray without knowledge? You see, this is why I'm not particularly impressed by brand Islam. This is why I'm not going to outsource my brain. This is why I'm not going to sit there and just, grow a long bit and go, inshallah and everything, and turn my brain off. No. Say thou, I find not in what I am instructed what is unlawful to one who would eat it, save it be carrion, or blood poured forth, or the flesh of swine, and it is abomination, or a wanton perfidy dedicated to other than God. So actually, the things that the Qur'an forbids are very simple, and they don't require a mullah to interpret this to you. But whoso is forced, neither desiring nor transgressing, thy Lord is forgiving, merciful. Now, does that require any huge amount of interpretation? I don't think it does. And unto those who hold to Judaism, we made unlawful every animal with a claw. So this is a different category of people, and this is, they have some different laws. And of ox and sheep, we made unlawful to them the fat thereof, save what their backs bear, or the entrails, or what is mixed with bone, and that we rewarded them for their sectarian zealotry. And we are truthful. And if they reject thee, say thou, your Lord is a Lord of vast mercy, but not repelled is his wrath from the evil-doing people. Those who ascribe a partnership will say, had God so willed, we would not have ascribed a partnership. Now, if you want my opinion, if you look at isnad of hadith, if that isn't ascribing partnership, multiple partnerships, then what is? Nor would our fathers, nor would we have made anything unlawful. Again, looking at hadith literature, it's all about what's unlawful. It's a whole library of stuff that's unlawful. It's a syncretic, well, it's a calque really on the Mishnah. It apes Judaism, which I think is possibly why Judaism is mentioned, or Judaism is perhaps not really a Quranic term, but why the Hebrew religion is mentioned above here. Nor would our fathers, nor would we have made anything unlawful. Thus did those who were before them reject until they tasted our might. Say thou, have you any knowledge? Then bring it forth for us. You follow only assumption, and you tell only lies. This is the Qur'an speaking here. This is the book that the people who push this religion, and in fact people who they kind of want they want a replacement for this. This is the book which everyone accepts as the foundational scripture. Well, this is what this book says. 149, say thou, then to God belongs the conclusive argument. Had he willed, he would have guided you all together. So, God guides or he doesn't guide, you see. It's not your father, it's not your family, it's not your mullah, it's not me, it's God either guides or he doesn't guide. 150, say thou, bring your witnesses who bear witness that God made this unlawful. Okay, this is God telling the recipient of the Qur'an, Muhammad, to say something. Qul. Say thou, bring your witnesses who bear witness that God made this unlawful. Then if they bear witness, then bear thou not witness with them. Now that destroys the entire concept of isnad. And follow thou not the vain desires of those who repudiate our proofs, and those who believe not in the hereafter, and who ascribe equals to their Lord. Now that's what Muhammad was instructed to do in the Qur'an. If you are interested, I very highly recommend that you read verses 151, 152, and 153. I'm not going to do that now, but I think that's enough. I wanted to cover this because I have been interested in trying to understand something of the background to people who follow my work, support my work, and so on. But in the interests of complete, clarity, I'm not here to create another religion for you. Please stop writing to me and asking me, well, how do I pray? How do I do this? How do I cut the grass? How do I start my car in a halal, format? This is completely antithetical to what I'm doing. What I'm interested in is the Qur'an, and what it is calling us to do is to read it and to use our brains, and then to apply that in an integrated way in our lives. There are a few rules, not very many, but they certainly exist, to do with morality and about maintaining sexual purity and so on. But they're not complicated. There's not much of it, and when in doubt, then apply your intelligence to the local situation, and when you get home, check it out in the Quran. It's not rocket science of any kind, and I'm not setting myself up, as I have mentioned in many places, as a mullah of any kind. So please, can you that's really my position on it. And but the reason I'm making this is because I think I've recently had a little bit of insight into how people grow up in a culture different to mine, how they think, and it's really just by way of trying to encapsulate, summarize my thinking, and in a way I hope to help them break out of a certain type of, I suppose, psychological prison, which is what it really must be. Anyway, that's all for now. If you're listening on YouTube, you can download my full translation of the Qur'an free using the button in the top right hand corner, or buy the hard copy there at 10% less than on Amazon. I also encourage you to sign up for the Qur'anite Plus newsletter on the site to get occasional micro updates. You can download the audio from my YouTube videos to your mobile device using the links in the drop down below. I recommend meetquranites.com to connect with other Qur'an alone believers. Like if you like, comment if you have something constructive to say, and subscribe to get more each week. And use the link in the drop down below to donate if you would like to help me keep doing this. And remember, this life is short, eternity is long. If you want good trees, plant good seeds.